this is the Galaxy S25 Edge. But you guys might be wondering, like, what actually is this phone? Now, of course, we all know that this is Samsung's new super thin smartphone. In fact, this is the thinnest phone that Samsung has ever made at 5.8 millimeters. But besides being super thin, like, what actually is this thing? And so Samsung was actually kind enough to invite me out to get an early hands-on of this phone. So let me tell you what this thing is, and then I'll give you my first impressions on what I think and what I think they should have done to make this thing better. Now, right before I was able to check out this phone for myself, they had a little briefing in Q&A where they mentioned that this phone is positioned in between the Galaxy S25 Plus and the Galaxy S25 Ultra. And so the Galaxy S25 Edge actually has features and components from both the S25 Ultra and the regular S25 and S25 Plus. And so just to break it down real quick, the Galaxy S25 Edge has the same 200 megapixel main sensor as the S25 Ultra, but then it has the same 12 megapixel ultra wide camera as the regular S25 and S25 Plus. And then the S25 Edge does have a titanium frame, just like the S25 Ultra, but it has the same 6.7 inch 1440p display as the Galaxy S25 Plus. Now, the glass on the display actually is the same higher quality glass as the S25 Ultra, but it's without that anti-reflective coating similar to what we have on the S25 and S25 Plus. Now, this phone, of course, does also have some features that are present on both the S25 and S25 Ultra, such as the processor, which is the Snapdragon 8 Elite for Galaxy. That's something that's common across the entire S25 lineup. And then this phone also does carry over the IP68 water and dust resistance. It also starts with 256 gigs of storage. It has 12 gigs of RAM. But because this phone is so thin, you'll notice I didn't mention anything about a telephoto camera because it actually doesn't have one. Now, one thing I found kind of interesting about this phone is actually the battery, because it is smaller, of course, than the S25 Ultra and the S25 Plus, and even the smaller S25. And so this phone comes with a 3900 milliamp hour battery, and at our briefing, Samsung mentioned that it should get more battery life than the Galaxy S24, but a little bit less battery life than the Galaxy S25. And notice, I didn't say the S24 and S25 Plus or Ultra, it's just the smaller base S24 and S25. And so based on all that stuff that I mentioned, you should probably be able to tell that this has some Ultra stuff, it has some regular flagship stuff to be kind of positioned in between the Ultra and the regular flagship, which is why this thing is priced between the Ultra and the regular flagship. So the Galaxy S25 Edge does come in at $1,100, which is $200 less than the Ultra and $100 more than the Galaxy S25 Plus. And by the way, right now is probably a good time to mention that I do have a link to the Galaxy S25 Edge in the description. And with that link, you can get an exclusive $50 Samsung credit. That is not something that's available by default on the Samsung website. And that link does also support me, so I would highly appreciate it. Okay, so this phone is kind of ultra, it's kind of regular flagship, so who should buy this phone? Now, the way Samsung explained this to us at our briefing is that this phone is tailored towards someone who is kind of looking at the Ultra, but doesn't really want a thick phone and doesn't really care about having an S Pen, but they still want the best 200 megapixel camera sensor, and so this is placed in the middle of the Ultra and the regular flagship. And so I guess the question that I have for you guys is, do you care about having a phone that's really thin? Because to be honest, I was recently using the CMF Phone 2 Pro, which is actually a pretty thin phone, and I think I realized that I don't know if I really care that it's thin. Now, of course, this phone is not as thin as the new Samsung phone, so maybe once I get the Galaxy S25 Edge and I start using it, maybe I will realize how cool that actually is, but I mean, we'll just have to see. And then I guess the other question is having a thin phone worth it to you to sacrifice having a telephoto camera? Because for me, I don't know that it is worth it. And then also, actually, is having a thin phone worth having a smaller battery as well? And again, I don't know that it is. Now, after seeing this phone for myself and hearing all the specs and everything, here's kind of what I wish they made this phone. One, I wish they would have added a silicon carbon battery to this phone. Like, this would have been the perfect time for Samsung to introduce this new battery technology. Like, you have a super thin phone, but imagine they were like, yeah, but it still has a 5,000 milliamp hour battery. That would have been so cool, but instead they just stuck with the regular battery tech and made it smaller. And two, I wish they had added the anti-reflective coating to the display like we have on the S25 Ultra. And then three, I know probably because this phone is so thin, it makes it very hard to add a telephoto camera. So that's fine. I can live with that, but I at least wish they would have added the same ultra wide camera as the S25 Ultra, so it still feels like the Ultra camera experience, just minus the telephoto, you know? I mean, ultimately, I wish this phone would have been exactly the same as the S25 Ultra, just minus the S Pen and minus the telephoto cameras. And if it was, I would have probably been okay with it costing $1,200 instead of $1,100. But either way, I am excited about this phone. I'm excited to try it out. I will be unboxing it here in a few days when I get it, and then I will be switching to it, and I will be doing a review, so stay tuned for more. But anyways, again, if you guys do plan on picking up this phone, you can feel free to see the link in the description, and let me know in the comments what your first impressions are of the Galaxy S25 Edge. Is it something that you're interested in, or do you not really care about having a thin phone? But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. God bless, and we will see you in the next one.